por la entrevista. Vámonos a Bruselas, donde va a hablar Merz, luego se va a reunir con von der Leyen.
And the Chancellor Merz. Without further ado, I will pass the floor to the President.
Well, good morning. First of all, I'm delighted to welcome Chancellor Friedrich Merz in this very significant day when we celebrate the 75th anniversary of Schuman Declaration, the very beginning of our union. And I want to wish all the best for the Chancellor and for his new government and for Germany in the coming 4 years. Germany is, of course, a key pillar of our union, and the stronger Germany is essential for our economy and our capacity to face the different challenges in the world. I'm very glad to listen to Chancellor Merz that they are a full alignment in the German government priorities and our own priorities on competitiveness, on security, and also on migration. Right. Then certainly we'll have the opportunity to have a very good work together in the coming years, and this is good for Europe, and I hope this is also good for Germany. Then, Chancellor Merz, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. Antonio, many thanks for your kind invitation to come to Brussels today. I highly appreciate your hospitality and our good meeting we had this morning, and this was not the first one. We had one a couple of weeks ago when I was still in opposition in Germany, but many thanks for having me today here in this council. Ich würde gerne auf Deutsch fortsetzen, meine Damen.
I'd like to continue in German, ladies and gentlemen. I'm delighted to be here today on the 9th of May, to be here in Brussels, my 3rd day in office. But Schuman Day, Europe Day, we face enormous challenges, but perhaps that is precisely why it is necessary to look back at the origin story of the EU, because 75 years ago today, the Foreign French Minister Robert Schuman declared or suggested the creation of the coal and steel community. And if you look at the founding documents, if you read the speech that he delivered 75 years ago, then you will find a very political reasoning. It had nothing to do with the coal and steel industry. It was the attempt to establish an instrument that would be the foundation of bringing politics together in Europe, starting with France and Germany, starting with the coal and steel industry, and then expanding to other sectors via the Euratom community, the European Economic Community, all the way through to the European Union as we know it today. And I'm pleased and grateful that on this day, the 9th of May, 2025, I have the opportunity to be here in Brussels. Robert Schuman and those who accompanied him on that journey wanted to join forces to strengthen Europe, to create an added value, because he was aware, even at the time, that no one single country would be able to overcome the challenges alone that he saw 75 years ago and that we see again today. And that, I believe, is a good opportunity for us to link in to that origin story of the EU. In the early 90s, as you know, I myself was a member of an institution in Europe, a member of the European Parliament in Brussels and in Strasbourg. I saw firsthand how legislation for the European single market was made. I spent my time here when German reunification happened, and that German reunification meant an important step towards European unification, not just Western Europe, but also Eastern Europe. And when looking back, I believe I'm the only Chancellor who at the start of his term of office visited not only Paris, but also Warsaw. That is a key symbol for the importance of cooperation between Germany, France and Poland. However, that doesn't mean that we'll only be focusing on the large member states. No, I also place great emphasis on the small and medium-sized countries in the EU. Everyone needs to be able to trust in Germany. Everyone should know that they can rely on Germany and the new German government, and I will be meeting many of my colleagues and having many discussions to bring that point across in the coming days and weeks. When it comes to the challenges we face, we need to complete the European single market. That is the core of our competitiveness, and for over 30 years now it has been at the heart of the European project. The single market is a success story, but it needs to be expanded. Integration of capital markets, for instance, is one example I could name, and particularly in light of current developments, we also need to join forces when it comes to building a European defence industry. I asked President Kosha to not lose sight of the need for efficiency when it comes to new funding systems, that we need to simplify our systems, that we need to do a lot more when it comes to available funding for defence and security equipment. And we can only do that together as a European Union as a whole. And of course, that raises the question of how Europe will continue to deal with the war of aggression against Ukraine. And I can only continue to say what I've always said over the last 3.5 years as leader of the opposition in Germany, which is that I firmly stand by Ukraine and Ukraine's cause, and we will do everything we can to end this war as quickly as possible, but that this can only be achieved together with Ukraine. Ukrainians need to be involved, and we need to make it very clear where we stand, and that is by the side of Ukraine. And I'm pleased to see that throughout the EU, with one or two exceptions, that is the case. I had a phone conversation with the American president yesterday evening, who informed me of his plan for a 30-day ceasefire. I expressed support for that idea. The German government also believes that a ceasefire is the right way to go, and Russia will now also be forced to agree to a longer ceasefire that will create the space that is needed for a real peace plan. And we're in close contact with France, the UK, Poland and other European partners on this as well. And the President of the European Council and I exchanged on this morning as well. We will be working in very close cooperation with our European partners to further support Ukraine in being able to effectively defend itself and to continue exerting pressure on Russia. We call upon Russia to now engage in a path towards a lasting peace, and if that does not happen, we will not hesitate to increase the pressure of sanctions with our European partner and the United States. Europeans don't just have to do more for Ukraine, we also have to stock up and organize our defense capacities in the EU within that context. Limiting irregular migration is also a topic that is of importance to me. You are aware of the decision that was taken yesterday in Germany. I want to state it very clearly here because there was some irritation there. Nobody in the government, least of all myself, declared a national emergency. That is not the case, but we will be enhancing our border checks as we did within the context of the football matches last year, always in line with European law, and we have informed our neighbours and partners about this. We're not going it alone as Germany. We're working closely together with our neighbours and partners. Ladies and gentlemen, in the coming months and years, I look forward to cooperating with my partners in the European Council, and I'm very grateful to the work being done in that forum by President Antonio Costa. And this morning I outlined our clear position, the clear position of the federal government of Germany. That is that we want to be strongly involved in the European Union, that we want to bring in our long-standing experience, and that together with the EU in the European Council and in all councils of ministers, we will be playing an active role. And I will also call upon my cabinet members in Berlin to be more present here in Brussels. Germany needs to show that we are deeply committed to Europe. That is Europe's interest, but it is also within Germany's interest, and we will continue those efforts together and will intensify them over the coming years. So, once again, thank you very much, Antonio, for your hospitality here this morning. I really look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. We'll take a few questions. Ansgar.
Ansgar Hase, Deutsche Presseagentur.
Chancellor, you had a discussion yesterday evening with President Trump, but you didn't mention how the discussions about the tariffs went with him. Could you perhaps say a little bit about that? Could you say what the possible solutions might be, what the EU could possibly offer President Trump? And on Ukraine, could you perhaps tell us what Trump is expecting from the European Union, from the Europeans, when it comes to this 30-day ceasefire?
An easy one. What do you expect from the new German Chancellor? And is there anything that he can do better than Olaf Scholz? Thank you.
You first.
A new leader means always new energy, new ideas. And Germany is a very reliable partner since day one of the European Union, and always contributes on behalf of different leaderships to strengthen European Union, to bridge difference, and to cement the unity among the 27s. And my expectations is, of course, that Friedrich Merz continue to put Germany in the center of the European making process, the decision process. And this is our third meeting, I think.
Yeah.
We met first time in Munich during the security conference. Then we meet again after your elections here in Brussels, and now as a chancellor. Then and I'm full confident in this new energy, this new will to continue to build our European Union.
Zu den beiden.
On the two topics, firstly, tariffs. I congratulated the US President on the agreement he has reached with the United Kingdom yesterday. That is a good way forward, but I also said that it's not possible to do that with individual EU member states because we only negotiate trade together. My impression was that he accepted that, and so he knows now he can only negotiate with us together. And I coordinated closely with the President of the European Commission. That's what I intended to do. And I also said that it is not a good idea to escalate the tariff dispute. The best thing would be to go down to zero for everything and for everyone. He has invited me to Washington, and I'm sure we will talk about this question in the near future. My impression is that in the US, the discussion about the disadvantages of tariffs for the US economy is starting. People are beginning to perceive that. And so we'll have to see what we can do to make progress. My impression is that a tariff war damages everyone. Nobody wins that kind of war. Let me also say that we shouldn't just talk about tariffs, we should also talk about technological standards and mutual recognition. That always is a second part, often a very underestimated part of trade agreements. Mutual recognition of technological standards is often just as important as the question about how high or low tariffs should be. So that second aspect will play a major role in my discussions with him. Now, on Ukraine, there is a draft communiqué between the member states of the European Union. You're familiar with the text. It's very much identical with the proposal for the 30-day ceasefire, and it really is now up to Russia, not just today and over the weekend, but certainly in light of the ceasefire that's been announced in the context of the 9th of May. And it's up to them, and I think now is the time to move on and turn the ceasefire into the start of peace negotiations. When it comes to the number of soldiers lost on both sides, that was something that Trump was very, very aware of. He's very aware of the price, the human price being paid in terms of casualties of the armed forces and others. And so I think he needs to increase the pressure on Russia so that after this weekend we move on to a phase where there can be serious negotiations.
Unfortunately, we're very short on time, so we'll just take one last question, and I'll take Virginie.
Yeah. Bonjour, Virginie Malingre.
Good morning, Virginie Malingre from Le Monde. Two small questions for you. You've often said that you want Germany to reclaim its place at the heart of the EU. Would you like me to start over? So you've often said that Germany should reclaim its role at the heart of the EU and act as a motor. And what does that mean in concrete terms? Do we need new projects? And specifically, what do you think about common debt when it comes to funding defense or others? And then secondly, on the trade war with Trump, if at the end of the day we bring the tariffs down to 10%, would that be acceptable for the EU?
Zunächst die Frage.
Well, first off, on what we jointly would perceive as being acceptable, that's something that I would need to discuss with my colleagues at the European Council. I've already expressed my personal opinion here, which is that we would prefer to see no tariffs at all. We've had a time period of very low tariff rates, slightly different on the EU and US side, different for different product groups, but my firm conviction is that zero tariffs are best and that mutual recognition of technological standards is part and parcel of this. Now, what can we do together? I discussed this question with President Macron and Prime Minister Tusk this week when it comes to the medium-term financial planning. The financial framework of the EU will certainly have some differences of opinion, and I will not be adjusting the German federal government's point of view when it comes to mutual debt. These must remain exceptional, and there have been exceptions in the past, but we're facing crises and challenges across the world that are becoming more permanent, and that cannot be used as a basis for permanent common European debt. But it's going to be a difficult discussion. There will be differences of opinion between Germany, some northern European countries and other countries in the EU, and there's not always agreement between Germany and France, but we're sitting down and talking about these topics. When it comes to European competitiveness, we agree. When it comes to reducing European bureaucracy, we agree. And simply kicking the can down the road is not a satisfactory answer. Some regulation needs to be lifted. Let me give you the CSDDD directive as an example. The directive on the supply chain. Simply delaying its entry into force is not a sustainable solution. The solution at the end of the day has to be to simply lift it, as we will be doing with our European supply chain law soon. When it comes to competition law, we will also be having to have discussions, and the Capital Markets Union has, and I share Emmanuel Macron's view on this, has been too much in the light of liability regimes and hasn't looked enough at how we can ensure a broad and deep European capitals market. And we will be looking to introduce initiatives in that area because we see that European companies, German companies, do not have enough capital at their disposal across Europe because our capital markets are still so fragmented. And we'll be looking to carry out joint initiatives to improve that in the next years. Thank you very much. And I look forward to seeing you again, some of you in this room or elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to our cooperation.
10:21 de la mañana, está esa declaración, bueno, esa comparecencia. Va a reunirse ahora Merz con von der Leyen, alrededor también de la fotografía de la Declaración de Schuman, hace 75 años, el inicio de la creación de la Unión Europea, que es donde está poniendo más el foco en este 9 de mayo, en el Día de Europa, Europa, más que en el final de la Segunda Guerra Mundial. 10:22 de la mañana, Ignacio García Valdecas.